Hello Australia, Tim Dwyer back again, and I hope you're all having a great day. Folks, I've got a few things I want to get across today. After my last video I put out, I had a lot of people that want to know more but don't know where to start, and so I've tried to help them a little bit, sending them some information. But a lot of people are just struggling to get their head around, how could this be? How could the government do this to us? Well, it's because, quite frankly, you don't know the rights that you have and the authority that you have and the power that you have and that was given to you freely. And yet it's been hidden away from you. So therefore, if you don't know you've got great wealth and someone comes and steals it, well, you're none the wiser because you didn't know you had it in the first place. That's what they've done. They've hidden your great wealth, your great power from you, and they haven't told you you had it in the first place, and so you didn't know that it had been stolen. Once again, we have the book, and okay, don't jump down my throat. The Act is in the book, all right? The Constitution Act is within the book, and this book is the annotated version, which gives the explanation of each word. So in the Act, it starts off with whereas, right? And there's a whole page of understanding of what that word means and why they came across it. And then it has the people, and what does the people mean, and what is the essence of the words the people mean in the Act. And it goes through and it's talking about where the seat of power would come from. Who has the power? Is it the Parliament? Is it the Crown? Who has the power? And on page, you can look this up, and this is why I'm giving you the page number. I'm trying to trick you here, okay? Page number 286 in the preamble of the Constitution. And just down there about, a quarter of the way down the page, it's talking about what the truth is about where the power lies. And for the truth is, now listen to these words, the supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. Did you get those words? The supreme, absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with you, not the Parliament, with you. Having said that, let's get into this little clip. Let me share my screen here. Let me bring up my PowerPoint and let me open that up. Alrighty, now I just got to get rid of that one. Alrighty, just get rid of that one. Put that over there. Alrighty. Every problem we have as a people originates in this place. I believe this to be the centre for destruction of Australia. Every law, state and federal, every treaty, every tax, every dollar paid, every contract, every bill passed are all null and void, and they are in actual fact acts of treason. Unfortunately, all our judges are sitting unlawfully as well. Makes it a little difficult to get to court to charge these guys, because the other guys don't want to do it because, well, it's all the same game. Now, there's a lot of people behind what I do. I do not have the knowledge base that you might think I have. I want to give particular thanks to these people. Firstly, the Reverend Bob Payne from Melbourne. Bob, I met Bob 30 odd years ago, and Bob was talking about a Christian orientation program, and boy did Bob have some political knowledge for us. And as you might guess, yes, I am a Christian. I make no apologies for that whatsoever. But it was Bob Payne who opened my eyes to where the Bible and the Constitution meet and what's going on within the government. And Bob was the one who set me on this path. Dick Yardley Dick is a mountain of knowledge, passion and knowledge for this country. Dick has fought for years and years, and so I thank Dick. And Dick and I have got some documents going backwards and forwards at the moment, which will hopefully provide some really, really good fruit. So Dick, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Brian Shaw. Brian has done so much. He has, again, another tireless person who just fights and fights and fights for the freedom of these people called Australians. Mike Holt, Larry Hannigan. Larry, we have spoken many times on the phone, and we have had long discussions, and I appreciate your input no end. You've got no idea. Wayne Glue. Wayne, you are the go-to man, anything constitutional. You've got a mind like a steel trap, and what you do not know about the Constitution, I don't believe has been written yet. And so, Wayne, I really appreciate the input that you've had and the times that I've been able to ring you and have those conversations. Vic, mate, you are just the backbone of what I'm doing. You don't realise it, but the input you've had into what I do has been huge. So thank you to all these people. And look, there's many more who've enabled and taught me who, without their knowledge, I'd not be able to play my small part in trying to right the wrongs that have been done to the people of this nation. You got to understand, these are the guys who have the smarts. I'm just the messenger. That's my job. I'm the messenger. All right. So thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge you people and everybody else. I can't list them all, but thank you. So as we said, every problem begins here. Let me explain how stupid I believe a lot of these people are, or decisive, or whatever you want to call it. The government said that up to 150,000 people could die from this virus thing. They instilled fear and terror into an entire population. These are university educated, highly paid professionals, the ministers for this, the minister for that, the whole lot of them all stood up and waffled on that we were going to die by the tens of thousands. Terrified the damn nation. 7,200 cases in total, 103 deaths. Long way from 150,000. But don't worry, they're telling us that there's a second wave coming. I wonder how they know that. I wonder if the coronavirus writes a letter and says, I'm going to come back again. Or does that come from the World Health Organization or the United Nations? I don't know where that letter comes from. Now, the government spent 130 billion of your dollars, your future dollars. Now, let me get your head around that. You got to understand that's $130,000 million. Just try and figure that out. But in 2018, 2 years ago, 1,186 people died from the seasonal flu and nobody lost their mind. They weren't conditioned to social distancing. There was no border shutdowns. There was no armed police on the borders. There wasn't people walking around finding somebody for sitting on the beach. You got to understand, these people, every model that they've put out has been wrong. These are the best modeling that they could come up with, and they've been wrong. You see, they've been wrong before. They've been wrong about the drought relief, the bushfire relief. They've been wrong, literally totally wrong about communist China. Communist China is just like a virus itself. It devours everything in its path. And you poor people in Victoria, I tell you what, you are in for some real trouble. That muppet you've got over there, he's got an offshore account somewhere, I'm sure, that China's filling up for him. I don't know. I'm just assuming. It's just an opinion. The incompatible migration, the poor returns on our royalties from our mines, the selling of water to foreign nations, every decision that's being made in this place is not to the benefit of Australian people. Far, far, far from it. Right? And all the interest groups here, we have to pull together. We literally have to pull together. You got no idea. Some of you probably do. Some of the comments that I got on my last video were more than interesting. Anyway, never mind. Let's keep pushing. Now, these are some of the past CEOs of the Centre of Destruction of Australia. These people are not, I repeat, not lawfully elected parliamentarians on your behalf. They are the CEO of the United Nations headquarters in Australia, the Centre for Destruction. Now, this group are responsible for setting in motion the modern destruction of your nation. They really are. You go back and do your history. Goof Watlam, right? Bob Hawke. There's not enough rope. Howard, what he did to this country, unbelievable. Malcolm Fraser, no better, right? And Paul Keating, man, what a slippery fellow he was. Mate, I would rather dance with a pit of snakes than spend an hour with Paul Keating. And this is where it all happens. These are the people who sit in treason. These are the people who are allowing the rot to continue. They do nothing to stop it. These are the talking heads that sell it to you. These are the pretty faces that make the statements that they're told to make without question. And they come out with the most inflammatory terminology that scares you and terrifies you. And when you see the news reports and some politician is standing up there, he's got two nodding heads just back off behind him and they're doing this. They're nodding to give more authority to what he's saying. It is just mind-blowing and it is mind-altering. This is propaganda, professional. This if Hitler had this at his behest, it would have been a massive problem for the West. It really would. These guys here, them and the politicians are the enemies this nation has. Best thing to do is take that thing on your wall called a TV and either throw a blanket over it or toss it out, but don't turn it on. Okay, the Commonwealth Act, right? The Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act, like I said, is within, the act itself is a separate act, but a copy of it is within that annotated version. We've been through this. This is the document that created the Office of the Governor-General and has the seal. We've been through this in the last video. This is a foundation document, just as that is a foundation document. These two documents are the most powerful documents in the nation. Period. End of story. Now, you want to check some of this stuff out? Here's two very, very good websites for you to go to. I want you to write these down. And I want you to go there and educate yourself. Don't rely on me or somebody else to give you the knowledge. You need to go and find the knowledge yourself. Oh, yes, but Tim, I don't have time. Well, then suffer the consequences, because I can tell you, you either make the time. The football's not on, really. Nothing's on. Study, understand, learn, become knowledgeable. Because there's a huge difference between knowledge and information. There is power in knowledge. There is destruction in information. Make sure you get knowledge. Did you know it's unlawful? Let me shift that. Did you know it's unlawful to teach the Constitution in public schools? That can't be right. Oh, yes, it is. It's not part of the curriculum. And so, therefore, if it's not part of the curriculum, it's against the law to teach it. Right? It's against the law to teach your children. I don't know, if you're in your 30s, I bet you never saw anything about a constitution in school. I talk to people all the time, and they don't even realize we have a damn constitution. That's sad. That's how well your rights and your authority have been hidden for decades over generations of people. Get yourself educated. Let's go back to how it starts. This is a maxim right? A maxim at law, it's not up for argument. It is what it is, right? So God created everything. That's the maximum. Now, okay, you might not be a Christian, you might be some other belief and whatever. That's okay. I'm not telling you got to believe what we believe. But this is how it works at law. God created everything. God created man. But the maximum is that the created cannot be greater than that which created it. Man cannot be greater than God. That's the maximum. Right? So man created governments. Now, the created cannot be greater than that which created it, period. So this is why every few years we get to go and do a thing called vote. On that day, you are a man, a woman, the creator of parliaments, the elector of parliaments, because only man can elect a parliament. We're going to figure out this in a second. So remember, the created cannot be greater than that which created it. The government cannot be greater than man. So the government, in their wisdom, created corporations, companies, and entities. Now, an entity is you with the government writing style of writing on your documents. I'm not going to get into the whole issue here, but if you look on your license, your name is in capital letters. That makes you an entity. A legal, fictitious entity is the correct terminology. And everything that you get from the government will have some part of your name in capitals. That makes you a legal, fictitious entity. And remember, if they've created entities and you've paid for your license or whatever, that the created cannot be greater than that which created it. And so when you're driving down the highway and the policeman pulls you up, you're an entity. He's the government, then he's over the top of you. He's got the authority. But you've got to identify something. Are you a man or are you the entity? Because the entity cannot be greater than that which created it. It's a maximum law. Period. This is why governments ride roughshod over companies and give them all manner of penalty and costs, because the government created the corporations. The created cannot be greater than that which created it. So remember that the absolute and total and uncontrollable authority remains with the people, the man, the woman. So if you want to have authority, you have to understand that you need to be a man and a woman, not an entity. Right? You want to have control over the government? Find out where you stand. More homework for you. These are just some clues. I hope you're paying attention. Find out whether you're a man or an entity, whether you're a woman or an entity. Entities can't control the government. Corporations can't control the government. Man can control the government. On the day we have a referendum, we vote as a man or a woman. I got a document recently, I think I mentioned it before, from Revenue SA about a property we have. And it asked for us to sign it as a natural man. Ooh, I thought that was interesting. Had a bit of a discussion about that. Anyway, moving right along. This is the authority over the governments. This is our crown authority. This is basically the Great Seal of the United Kingdom. Right? And if you have a look around, most of it's gone. It's nearly all gone. Okay. Actually, I should have put that on here. In the old Parliament House in Canberra, where the Speaker of the House sits, over the top is a canopy, and on that canopy is the wood carving of the crown. So the Speaker of the Parliament sits under the crown. In the Parliament we have today, we just got a kangaroo. No, we don't even have that. We just got some florally things carved into a lump of wood. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, that's another video for another day. The Australia Act. This is what we're all about here at the moment. This is a full-blown treason instigated and carried out with full knowledge of both Labor and Liberal leaders, both state and federal, in 1986. It started in 1984, went to 85, and was done in 86. And I can tell you through my own personal knowledge that Her Majesty did not give a cent to that. There'll be more coming on that shortly, I can tell you. Anyway, this is what we're on about here. You've got to understand every bill that's ever been passed since 1986 is fluff. Fluff. You see, it's all been done under the directions of this mob, the destruction of nations. They're not the United Nations, they are the destruction of nations. And if you listen to their terminology in the United Nations, they're talking about member states of one world. I don't know about you, I don't want to be a member state. We are a nation. See, we're a nation under the crown. Every aspect of law and acts introduced since the Australia Act, both state and federal, have absolutely no standing at law under the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900. Now, I ask every member of Parliament on both sides, federal, state, whatever, you prove me wrong. You prove me wrong that the Australia Act has more authority over the Constitution. See, let me go back here. Let me just go back. Let me go back here. There, right? Let me put it to you this way. If this is the Constitution that creates the government, how can the government create another document through the Constitution that has more power above the Constitution? The created cannot be greater than that which created it. So therefore it cannot create a document greater than that which created it. It's just crazy. Harry Gibbs, right? No one, however powerful, is above the law. Now, he was appointed as Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia. He was a second Queenslander to be appointed to that distinguished position, and he was done in 1981. Now, Harry's gone. Harry's dead, right? Now, in relation to the Australia Act, this is a small snippet out of a huge document, right? And he's talking about how the Governor-General, who is not appointed by the Queen, the Governor-General created a new letters patent. Now, the Governor-General's letters patent is a comedy of errors. We are greeted in the name of the Queen of Australia, who suddenly becomes the Queen of the United Kingdom in the next paragraph. I therefore have come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its states and territories has no basis at law. Now, this is the Chief Justice. He was retired when he wrote the letter. This was the retired Chief Justice of the High Court, where you go to sort out constitutional matters. And he's saying that in his esteemed opinion, the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its states and territories has no basis at law. Woohoo! Go, Harry. Think about that, people, right? That makes the entire political system in this country treason. Federal government, state government, local councils, we've been trying to tell them for years they're treasonous. But anyway, the police, you see, today, your police force is not the policeman that we used to know. Your police force under the Australia Act is now a state authorised military force. You've only got to look at the attire that they wear. Every one of them carries a sidearm against a civilian population. Every one of them has a thing of squirter stuff to spray in your face so you can't see anything. Every one of them has a nightstick or a baton. Every one of them, when you see them walking around, the great majority of them, still they wear a bulletproof vest every day against an unarmed civilian population. That is a military force. Period. End of story. And again, that is outside the laws of the Constitution. For the Queen to sign the Australia Act, the government is required to hold a referendum in England and most probably the entire empire to get permission of the Commonwealth to give away one of her realms, in this case, the continent of Australia. That did not happen. At the very least, it would require permission from the House of Lords, who are the keepers of the realms, and to go to the British Parliament first. Remember, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in England is only the monarch of the empire, not the owner. If the Australia Act got past those hurdles, it would then have to go to the people of the Commonwealth of Australia for approval by referendum in conjunction with the highest law in Australia, the Constitution. It did not. It never happened. There was never any referendums at all regarding this matter. That referendum would have to come from the people to the Governor-General for permission to remove the Constitution. But this cannot happen because the union between Great Britain and Australia is indissoluble. We have agreed to unite in one indissoluble Commonwealth. That's it. Indissoluble. The first 8 sections of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act are an act of British Parliament and cannot be changed by anybody. Right? The people of the Commonwealth, not the government. Sorry, the people are the Commonwealth, not the government. And the people are the states, not the government. The government are there at your behest. In actual fact, I'll show you in a little bit, it's a charter of trust, and it's a stated trust. So, here we go again. God created man. Man created governments. Governments created entities and corporations. The created cannot be greater than that which created it. If the government cannot be greater than you and I, the man and the woman, why is it that we live in fear under the government? It should be the other way around. The government should live in fear of the way the people want to work. They've taken over, and it's not right. And you see, if it's not right, by definition, it must be wrong. If what they did with the Australia Act is not right, then by definition, that must be wrong. If what they've done with the bushfires and the floods and everything else is not right, then by definition, that's wrong too. There is that much wrong, and it's all coming out of Canberra and the state parliaments. They are not your friends. They are your enemy, because they do not work in your best interest. They charge you for it and work against you. If this is the first video of mine that you've actually seen and you want some other information, here is an email address to shoot an email off to, and I'll pump out some information to you. But I'm sure those 2 websites I've given you earlier will keep you busy for a long time. And with the email list that we've established here, this is only ever going to be used as a method of keeping those who want information up to date with what we're doing. And what we're doing will become more evident probably next week, hopefully, maybe the week after, but hopefully next week, because we have put some we have put some stuff in motion that's gonna get exciting. If we can pull this off, stand back. It'll fire a shot around the world. All righty. So what I want to do now is I'm just going to read a couple of these sections of the Constitution to you. So just so as you can see what I'm doing, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to exit this PowerPoint presentation. All right, and I'm going to grab the book. All right, now because I'm using this effective background, I want you to understand that as I hold this up for you to see, it'll just disappear and all that sort of stuff. So I do apologize for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to read out of section 116 for a start. Now, section 116, most people don't want to know about that one. That covers religion. But I can tell you this. The people of this nation agreed to unite in one indissoluble commonwealth, humbly relying on the blessings of Almighty God. And the further away that this nation has got from the concept of God, the more the devil has run loose. Take that for what you think of it. It's up to you. That's just my thoughts. Anyway, here we go in section 116. You can look this up. This is on page 952 of the Annotated Constitution, the red cover book, not the green, the red one. The Federal Parliament is a legislative body capable only of exercising enumerative powers. Its powers are determined and limited by the actual grants found within the Constitution. Anything not granted to it is denied to it. You see, that didn't stop Bob Hawke after we had a referendum about local government. And we all said, no, we didn't want to give them any real authority. But the next year, your good mate Bob Hawke, Prime Minister of Australia, blatantly broke the law, went against the will of the people, and introduced the Local Government Acts. And now the local councils are tyrants. The people said no, but Bob just, who cares? This is how blatant these people are. And this is why it's time that you and I push back. And I'm saying push back peacefully, but push back en masse. They have to know they're out. They have to know we've had enough. Let me now come to section 128, subsection 481. And this is on page 988 of the book. And about 2/3 the way down the page, it says here, in the Constitution of the Commonwealth, of course, there is no absolute sovereignty, but a quasi-sovereignty which resides in the people of the Commonwealth, who may express their will on constitutional questions through the majority of electors voting and a majority of the states. No amendment of the Constitution can be made without the concurrence of that double majority, a majority within a majority. No different. The Australia Act created so many breaches or changes to the Constitution that we'd have to have 24 referendums just to get through some of that stuff, right? Now, down here a little bit further on, these safeguards have been provided not in order to prevent or indemnify, resist change in any direction, but in order to prevent the changes being made in haste or by stealth, to encourage public discussion and to delay the changes until there is strong evidence that it is desirable, irresistible, and inevitable. None of that took place in 1986 with the introduction of the Australia Act. This is how criminals have taken over this country, directed by the UN, and it is part of the whole socialist movement where socialism by gradualism, little bit by little bit by little bit. And socialism will take your freedoms, if you haven't noticed. Try and gather in 50 or 60 people and see how free you are today. That's socialism. I hope you're enjoying it, because if you don't push back, you'll have it forever. Your kids will have it forever. Right? And just underneath that, it says this: a constitution is a charter of government. It is a deed of trust containing covenants between the sovereign community and its individual units. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put it to you this way. What we call a government in this country is not, it's a cabal. They are criminals at every level. They have broken our deed of trust just uncountable amount of times. And when you breach a deed of trust, it is a 5-year offence in jail. They have committed treason on a wholesale level to the extent where they have literally stolen an entire nation. If you think all that's okay, do nothing. If you don't think that's the right thing and you've had a guts full, then it's time to stand up. And I'll tell you, one of the things you can do, I think this Saturday around the country, there's a whole bunch of people all getting together at various city locations. Find out where that is. Turn up. Be peaceful, but turn up. Show that we've had enough. And if that doesn't get their attention, well, then we can front up at their offices. You're allowed to go to the politician's office, you know, in their state. You don't have to go to Canberra. Front up at their office, form a queue of hundreds of people long and tell them you want them to resign. We have no faith in our parliament. Things have to change. Well, we do have solutions coming, and so it's not all bad news. There are solutions coming. So what I want you to do is just educate yourself and in a controlled way, get as mad as hell. Just get mad. Because until you get some passion about trying to save this nation, it will go down the drain. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Dwyer from South Australia. I thank all my friends and the people who have supported me and that have helped me with all this knowledge. And I thank you, the Australian people, for standing up to save this great nation. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll speak to you all a little bit later, I hope, and let's see where we end up with all this. Free.